Welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast, where we serve and support leaders so you can serve and support your local church.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Olson. Well, if you tuned in the last time, you got to hear the first half of my conversation with Channing and Aaron from The Responding, and we're going to pick it up right where we left off and finish out our conversation. And I got to tell you, you don't want to miss this. So here we go, part 2 of our conversation. You know, if you're writing music together, that's probably been a really amazing thing for your team as well, whether it's your worship team or just like a specific group of writers who have shown interest, or I don't know what that looks like. Maybe you can give us insight into that. But I imagine it's been unifying and, you know, a relationship building thing as well. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of trust involved when you start to bring these really these deeper thoughts to the table with people, and there's a really beautiful thing that happens when someone else gets to come along and give the same amount of care to your baby that you do, and you suddenly go, oh wow, I can trust you with these deeper things. And yeah, for sure has really created a deep sense of camaraderie and a deep sense of family amongst our writing group. And it's also, just given a new context to being, like you said, being really united around these same fronts, right? We just kind of know that we're together on what we're thinking about. We're together on what we feel like the Lord is speaking. We're together on what it is that we're trying to convey through these songs. And in that definitely comes a sense of teamness and oneness, which is really, really unique. I think there are definitely other types of experiences that can forge those kinds of relationships, but amongst the trust that is built amongst songwriters, I think is a unique one. And yeah, we definitely are appreciative of those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And so I'm just thinking back through our conversation so far, and for people who are listening and looking for tangible action steps of how do I get started in my church ministry, we talked about, step 1 is paying attention to the small stories, right? And really paying attention to what's happening there. And step 2, like you just said, Aaron, is letting that desire and passion for creating beauty be noticed and be brought out. And then, like you're saying now, Channing, step 3 is allowing community within your group of songwriters, and that trust, and that, just developing community with the people that you're going to write songs with. And so I think that those are just 3 amazing actionable items. I would say one question that I have, and that maybe people have, is can you give a little bit of insight into how do you pay attention to those small stories that are happening? Because obviously there's enough writers probably where you have a ton between you, but you probably have a large church and there's a lot of people. So how do you guys intentionally pursue, seeking out what's happening in your community?
Yeah. One of the first things that you can do is, if we're going to talk about how to get started, actually write your story first. Just write yours.
Yeah.
'Cause you have a story that counts as well. And start there. And then share it if you feel brave enough. Maybe it's only to some friends and some family, or your small group, or whatever the case may be. But out of that vulnerability, I think that you'll discover there is a really unique characteristic amongst most people, that we actually all want to be heard, and we actually want people to know our story. And if you're vulnerable enough to share yours, people will share theirs with you. That's a really like simple way to start, but I think a really genuine way to start.
Yes.
And then, if you've got access, if you're a worship leader and you have access to your congregation, and in the sense that you could maybe encourage or speak from the stage and have an opportunity maybe to do that, or you have access to social media or those kinds of tools, really practical ones is just ask people, hey, tell us your God stories. Tell us the way that God's been working in your life. Or maybe tell us a story that's in process, a place that you're still waiting for redemption. Whatever that case may be. I think that I think it's just important to, if you're going to open that door, you have to honor it. That's the one thing. Yeah. If you're going to open the door, you have to honor it. We just want to make sure that as we take on these types of endeavors, that we're asking people to step into a really vulnerable place and to be open and honest about where their life is at. And even to the point that we say, like, hey, the goal for this is that we would hopefully be able to tell your story in a creative, in a sort of a mosaic way, that it would be able to connect with other people. And so we just want to make sure we are doing our due diligence to honor that. But yeah, if you've got access to ask, just ask. That's what I would think. Aaron, what do you think?
I got some thoughts that are pretty practical. I love practical steps. And the first thing that popped in my mind was, well, if you if you want to find out the stories within your church, that means you have to be there. So if, like, let's say you are just like, you're on worship team or something like at your church, but you're also a songwriter, and if the only time you maybe end up showing up is like, oh, I'm on 2 weeks of the month and I'm volunteer those 2 weeks, and otherwise I'm not really there, chances are you're probably not going to find out stories from people because you're just not there. So, I mean, that's just like 101, like, we got to be there. 2, so I'll use our church as an example. We always do a pre-service prayer before our services on Sunday morning and Wednesday night and whatever services we do. We do pre-service prayer where, for the most part, it's all the volunteers of the day. Everyone's invited, but mostly all the volunteers of the day and staff and all come together, and we just pray for 15, 20 minutes. And it's crazy how often things come up through that prayer time that are like, oh, here's where the church is totally leaning towards, or here's where, and I've found a lot of times, like, okay, I can kind of see the writing on the wall here of like where people are kind of at just through these pre-service prayer time. And so that's just, again, that's specific to our church, but I'm sure there's other churches that have a lot of that same stuff, some sort of prayer time or whatever. It gives you definitely a little window into people's hearts that way. And another one is, again, most churches, if they're maybe medium, obviously medium to bigger, they have small groups. They always hammer on small groups being so important. Yep. And if you ain't in a small group, I'd say get in a small group, especially if you get in a small group with people that maybe aren't within your immediate sphere, because then you're just grabbing new perspectives on people that are in the church. And I mean, if you're breaking bread together in your home, you're going to start to learn each other's stories. That's just going to happen. And so, I don't know. Those are just off the top of my head a few kind of tangible, practical steps that you can do. And kind of, I don't know, always being ready to, not like, oh, how could I turn this into a song? Not in that way, but kind of in that way. Like, oh, how could we, create beauty out of this? Always kind of being ready with that in your mind.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. Paying attention, right? What I'm hearing you say is be intentional and pay attention, right? Intentionally investing in our communities and being there and caring about people and about what's happening, and then be ready, be prepared when the inspiration strikes or something is stirring in your heart, and that's amazing. I just love that. And, it makes me, think of this, the song "Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord," a classic, just amazing chorus worship song. And that, listening to the prayers of the people, that's how Paul Balash wrote that song. It's just like in a spontaneous, altar time, and just listening to people praying, "Open the eyes of our hearts, God, open the eyes of our hearts. We want to see you. We want to see you, God," and then there came this amazing song that has become an anthem for
yeah, absolutely,
churches all over the world in many languages. But just being obedient to that as well is a really powerful thing. So thank you so much, both of you, for sharing just what's going on in your church and ministry. And I think it's amazing to, like I said at the beginning, I just love getting to learn what's going on in the church all over, because it's a powerful reminder that God is moving. He sees, he knows, and he is moving in powerful ways. And I love hearing about what he is doing in Vancouver, and just through the ministry of your church. And if people want to get in touch with you guys, or if they want to hear your music, you have a new song that's out called "Greater Things," which I listen to, and it's great. I love it. And so if people want to listen to the music, they want to get in touch, how do they do that?
Yeah, thank you, firstly, for having us, and
absolutely,
it's been a blast to just chat and get to connect with you and get connected with another part of the world. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're kind of in all the places that you would normally find people in the world today, but we're on Spotify and Instagram and all of those things. But the easiest way to get to all of that right now is simply go to theresponding.com. And I'm going to do that as I say it to make sure everything's there that I think is there.
Sounds good.
But I believe that'll take you to all of our links.
Cool.
Yeah, and like you said, we've got a new song, "Greater Things," that we're really excited about. It's a song that my wife and I had the opportunity to write. And yeah, so super excited about that tune, and would love it if you guys would go give it a quick listen. Play it at your church, whatever you feel like you want to do with it. We would be happy to also help you resource that song too. If you need charts or need any of that kind of stuff, feel free to reach out to us. Yeah, and then we're recording this we're recording this in the month of February. Goodness gracious, it's already February.
I know.
In March, we're releasing it'll be in April that we release it, but in March we're recording a new 6-song EP that we're really excited about. So you guys
That's amazing.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that, and we'd love it if you give those things a listen as well. So yeah, amazing. That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely put all of those links and everything in the show notes of this podcast as well, and remind our listeners and our people to check out your new music too when it comes out in the spring. And yeah, any final thoughts or final things either of you would like to say before we sign off? Aaron, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
It's like a really open-ended question. But
It is, and I could probably go on for another hour. So
yes.
One of the things we didn't say, and we should just say it, is just do it. Just go write music.
Yeah.
Go write bad music. Go write good music. Whatever. Just go write music. That's it. That's how you get started.
You know what? Yes, thank you. That gives just a quick thought. We've mentioned it twice now, and we keep saying like good or bad. And as a producer, I quantify music as good and bad all the time. And so often I'm like, I actually shouldn't be doing that. And I do. And I know, and oftentimes it's just like, wow, let me just step back here. And because why I say this is when you're starting, you initially are going to be like comparison game. And that comparison game is one of the scariest things you could ever, the most detrimental things you could ever do.
Yes.
And because you will just start to lump, this is good and that's bad and mine's bad. And you know what? I firmly believe that the Lord does not see it that way. He does not see it as good or bad. He sees it as either it's a true offering or it's not. And if we're offering true offerings, sacrificial offerings to our Lord, he will be blessed. And out of that heart, I believe will come, quote, good songs.
Yes.
So, I think that's what I would just leave everyone with, especially new and upcoming writers who want to really dive into it.
Yeah. So. Wow. Thank you for that. I'm so glad you added that, because that is the perfect way to just end another episode on that note with everybody. Just go and do it, and let's view it through the lens of it as an offering to our God, and not get caught up in the comparison game, but focus on what God has called you to and what he's put in your heart, because he's put it there for a reason, and he's called you to your community for a purpose. Well, everybody, that's another episode of the Overflow Worship Podcast. Please head to theresponding.com and you can check out all the things. They do have their social links and everything there for you to get connected with them. And they'll also be in the show notes for you to click if you're just feeling like you just can't type it in. It'll be there. You can tap it. So, Channing, Aaron, thank you so much for being here today. It was an awesome conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Overflow Worship Podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, which helps us reach more people. New episodes are released every other Monday. So until next time, thank you for listening.